Hi, I'm Brian Otten. I'm the Marketing Director with the Greater Wausau Chamber of Commerce. We are joined, or I am joined this afternoon by another finalist for the ATHENA Young Professional Leadership Award, and it's Zoua on the left, and former recipient back in 2019, Lora Blado, on the right. And so, Lora, I'm going to let you take off with the interview.
Thanks so much, Brian. It's great to meet you, Zoua.
Nice to meet you
Congratulations.
as well. Thank you.
It's a huge honor. Those of us who have been former recipients didn't even really grasp how big of an honor it was until after it all sank in. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. We're going to start off with a pretty easy question. I think is probably a really great example of why you've been nominated. But could you share with us an example of how you served others in your community?
So it basically stems off of like what I'm passionate about, like the healthcare field, and then also the fact that, growing up in Wausau and growing up in a low poverty area or family, there was always issues with access to medications and not knowing or having access to different things. So it was really important for me to really go with this route into the healthcare, because that's what I was interested in. But to be able to like have access and accessibility to those who are underserved. So, for example, the things that we do here at the pharmacy, we write things in Hmong, so it's easier for communication, help with health literacies to help patients understand their medications. Others, we will draw little pictures and diagrams, so allowing them to see things in a different light. We also have our over-the-counter program, which is for Wisconsin Medicaid patients. We collaborate with a physician that allows us to prescribe these medications, because a lot of times it's just the Tylenol, the ibuprofen, something simple that's all they really, really need. And they can't afford it, because I've worked in retail, worked at CVS, worked at Walgreens, and there are times where people do come and they're like, I just can't afford the Tylenol. So trying to fill that gap in our community and having that be accessible to patients is definitely, because I know where it comes from. I know how tough it is, and sometimes people don't realize that $10 is really hard to come by. Yeah. So definitely that's kind of where everything stemmed off, was my experience, accessibility, and then always wanting to help our community grow, considering the fact that I feel like this community has really helped me grow a lot, and it's nice to kind of want to give back, because I did grow up in Wausau, and then I went to school at University of Wisconsin-Madison. Came back here because this is the community that I want to serve. This is the community that helped me grow and makes me who I am, and that's why I'm back here, serving the community.
I love that so much. I also am a Badger.
Oh.
So let's move on to another question where maybe you can give us an example of a time that you've worked with another female woman and brought them into a position of leadership, or helped at least raise them into a position that they deserved or earned, that maybe they didn't believe they did until you influenced them.
I think a lot of the situations happen. I see this happen a lot, but I think one that comes to mind is part of an organization that I was with, and there was this woman that was in there. Like, she was an awesome, great candidate, like worked hard, but she was a little more on the quiet side. But you knew she was a hard worker. She was passionate about what she would do. And then when we came around to nominating and voting for like the president, the vice president, so on and so forth, I knew her personality, so she was a little bit shy. So, but I knew she had a lot of potential. So it was a little nudge of, hey, you know what? You have such great potential. You have such a good personality. You get along with people. You're so dedicated that, you know what? I think you deserve to be in this role as like an officer. So a little bit of push kind of helped her through, and supporting her as well, because I felt like she was also nervous, like, hey, I might not win. But to be able to be like, hey, you know what? Let's work through some strategies. Like, when you're giving your speech, what are the things you want to see happen? And what can we do to buy in everybody else's vote? And so it was really nice to be able to see that she was able to grow and win that position, and then the following year move on to become the president. So it was amazing to see that, somebody with such potential, but sometimes all they really need is like a little nudge of like, hey, you know what? You have a lot of potential. You're doing so well. You have so much greatness to give, and that's all you have to do is a little nudge.
I know that I also had people like that in my life. Do you also?
Yes.
Yeah. So it feels really good to give back in that way, doesn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
I love that. Good for you. And then let's move on to another question. How about a time that you may have advocated fiercely for either yourself or a cause or another person?
So when I think about the healthcare field, I think about myself and when COVID hit, because I think this is like a big something that we didn't know about, and it was very brand new. A lot of people didn't know too much about it. So when I was working with CVS, they pulled a few of our pharmacy managers out to kind of be like, hey, you know what, you guys are going to head this. We're not quite sure how this is going to go. We're not quite sure how the legality of everything is going to go, but things change day by day. And what we ended up doing was we ended up organizing healthcare clinics all throughout Wisconsin and Michigan. And the thing about it that was like tough was a lot of people had doubts on it, and which is completely fair. It's fair. Like, it's something new. People didn't know too much about it. So people were resistant to it.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of, hey, you know what, educating and being like, hey, you know what, based off of all the studies that we have seen with the vaccines in the past and how they were created and the effectiveness of vaccines and how they applied it to COVID, it is fairly safe. And sometimes just being that person who's like, hey, you know what, I was one of the first people to get the shot. I was one of the first people to go through it.
Yeah.
I was able to see it. And in a sense, I feel like I got my COVID vaccine, and I've always been up to date, because not for myself, but literally for my community, because it's not the young people who are going to get sick. I mean, you could, but it's usually the elderly that do get sick. So doing it was not for myself, and I feel like that's really important, because that also brings in something with my culture, like being Hmong. Everything's not very individualized. It's about doing the better good for the actual group.
Yeah.
So
right.
that was something that I really pushed, was the vaccines and trying to get all the clinics set up where we need to set up. And then after the big scare of COVID, now kind of maintaining and making sure that those who are most vulnerable are the ones getting served. So doing a lot of COVID vaccine clinics at senior homes throughout the state of Wisconsin, especially rural areas. So definitely a push. And a lot of times when people are resistant, it's okay. I understand. And I never really push. I don't push anybody either way. It's like whatever you're comfortable with. But I do let them know, hey, you know what? It was a choice that I made, and that's a choice that I recommend to my family members. And I wouldn't do that if I did not feel like it was safe.
Right.
So kind of advocating in a sense of an action versus those. Some people complain a lot of things and they don't make any changes, but to make the change, you have to be that action.
Yeah, and to be the leader, to show versus just empty words, right? Well, that's wonderful. Anything else you'd like to add that you feel is important to have people understand about you or your journey to this place?
I think that for the most part, it was a lot of, I think if I were to give like any kind of recommendations to like females or anyone out there, it would be the fact that, you know, sometimes the journey is tough. Sometimes you don't always succeed, and sometimes you fail, but it's the way you look at it. If you look at it as an opportunity for things, you can definitely, that's how you grow. So instead of looking at failure or disappointment as something negative, look at it as an opportunity. And that's how I got through a lot of things. Like, things didn't always go my way, but being able to just look past that and be like, hey, there's other opportunities, and this is a stepping stone. So looking at it in a positive light.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It's very nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you. So excellent job, Zoua and Lora. Really good interview. For those of you that are watching that maybe missed the interviews that we did earlier today, this is the 7th interview we've done today. You can visit the Chamber's Facebook page and watch those archived there. You can also go on the Chamber's YouTube channel and find them. If you're interested in the ATHENA Awards program itself, it's really a fun event. It's a great opportunity for some great local leaders to be recognized. And that event will be held on Thursday, November 21st over lunch at the Holiday Inn and Suites in Rothschild. If you'd like to register for that program or learn more, you can visit wausauchamber.com. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
for those watching, we'll be back with more of these interviews tomorrow.